Hello everybody, this is Cyrus here, back with another video. Today is video number 200 on my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be taking a look at 5 of my favorite vintage diecast trucks I have in my collection. Kicking off with number 5, the Guy Vixen. I don't know a whole lot about the Guy Motors Company, but what I do know is they also did specialize in cars and buses as well as commercial vehicles. They would start to gear more towards commercial vehicles around the 1950s and then would eventually be discontinued around the late 80s. This particular Guy Vixen cab over really caught my attention due to the sloped design at the front of the truck as opposed to most cab overs having a rounded front or flat front. Coming in at number 4 is the Atkinson Model D steam truck. To be fair, Atkinson is another British truck company that I just don't know a whole lot about. I don't know if they're even still around to this day, to be honest. However, I am a sucker for collecting vintage steam-powered trucks like this, and definitely the Atkinson is tied from one of my 2 favorite models, with the other model being the Sentinel DG4. I think all the chrome work being used on the boiler, funnel, and ash collecting system underneath the truck look quite good, as well as the sprocket system, or I don't even know if that's the right word, the steam-powered mechanism underneath there. And it's also hard to see, but there is a molded-in chain drive on the opposite side of the truck to power the rear axle. I think that this green color looks quite good, and definitely I'll see if I can find another one of these out of the package that I can put on display. Coming in at number 3 is the 1950s Diefco milk truck. I'm an absolute sucker for vintage milk trucks, in my opinion, and this 1950s Diefco is no different. This particular one was made by a diecast company called Road Champs. Don't know a whole lot about the company, but a little bit of information behind the real-life Diefco company. They started off around the early 1920s and ended around the mid-1980s. And it just so happens that around that same time period, more grocery stores were starting to bring in milk, so there was just not a need for milk trucks to deliver it around the neighborhood anymore. The amount of chrome work being used on the bumpers, headlights, grille, and hood ornament is absolutely fantastic, and I think the molded-in windshield wipers on the front of the truck look quite good. Also, there is a molded-in interior with your traditional controls, such as your drive gears, gear shifter stick, steering wheel, and foot pedals. It's hard to see because it's dark in there, but you'll have to take my word for it. And then also on the opposite side is a cold box, which would be used for storing any dairy products that could spoil more easily, such as yogurt and ice cream, for example. In addition, Diefco also did use their trucks for bakery use as well as dairy deliveries. Coming in at number 2 is the Scamell Scarab. Absolutely by far one of the more unique trucks in my collection, as we've gotten a lot of cars and trucks and even scooters that are 3-wheeled, but it was interesting to get a 3-wheeled cab that could connect to trailers. Now, interesting to note, on the real-life versions, these trucks did not use a 5th-wheel mechanism to attach the trailer. Instead, you would just back up. The landing legs with the small wheels on the bottom would retract as the truck latched onto the trailer. And then there would be a horizontal bar that would lock into a quick coupler on the framework. And then once that was locked in place, the truck could drive off towing the trailer without the operator having to get out of the cab to reattach it. How they would get these detached is another story that I don't know much about. Also, another nice attention to detail is the bumper on the front of the truck is actually part of the metal base, so it's not going to break off as easily as opposed to a plastic bumper, like on the milk truck, for example. There are two molded in plastic mirror lights, and then there's actually a single light up front. The trailer doesn't have the best detail underneath, but I do like the molded in plank detail on the sides and in the bed of the trailer. And I also think that the red and green accents look quite good as well. Alright, if you made it this far, get ready for number 1. It is the Mack AC model. We've gotten a lot of vintage trucks that have had the triangular hood design, and we've seen that triangular hood design on a lot of vintage cars as well. I've always found that very unique, but what was pretty unique about the Mack AC model was that it was more of a different style of shape with the hood, and to top things all off, instead of having a molded-in grille right up front, it had a rounded front with side vents for ventilation. The amount of detail that went into this isn't exactly the major amount that you would expect, but I can easily let that slide. As for some of the details that this truck did have that are personally my favorites, would have included of the gold fuel tank on the side there, which is a separate part, and yes, that's metal. And my personal favorite detail, as the real life versions of these trucks were not powered by a transmission, but instead would have a chain drive that was linked to the rear axle to power the rear driving wheels. You can also see your molded-in leaf springs where the axle is connected, as well as the same leaf springs at the front axle. The canopy cover can be taken off the truck, so if you wanted to display this with a little load in the back, you could. I think that the yellow paint job looks quite good with its red and brown accents. And another thing I want to touch on regarding this truck is the real-life versions were really ahead of their time due to the amount of power they offered. They lasted from 1916 all the way up to the 1930s, or late part of the 1930s. And I think that shows an example of how a good truck would be able to last that long. So that just about wraps up this video. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in some more videos very soon. Have a good, safe rest of your day, guys. Bye.